All right, so last weekend the Seahawks played the Falcons. It was another fantastic football game. There was a little bit of everything. The Seahawks went up big early in the first half. They took a 17-3 lead into halftime. Then the Falcons adjusted at halftime and came back out and took the lead in the fourth quarter there. And Seahawks missed a field goal. Seahawks missed an extra point. All of a sudden, Seahawks win by 2. So it was an awesome football game. The Seahawks defense held one of the best offenses in the league to 3 points in the first half and 24 for the game. Is the Seahawks defense legit?
Well, let me just start off by saying I am extremely embarrassed and ashamed of doubting the Hawks this last weekend. And mark my words, it will never, ever happen again. I'll never doubt my Hawks again.
For the rest of the games, the Hawks will always win.
The Hawks will win, the Hawks will win, the Hawks will win. Okay. Yep. I'm really glad they proved me wrong. But to get back to your question, of course the Seahawks defense is legit. If that's not clear to you, after they had stopped the best offense in the league and held them to 24 points to pull out the win, then yeah, as you said, Christian. But
a little sass.
Yeah, of course they're legit. And I do think the Hawks defense left a lot of opportunities for the Falcons on offense, especially in that third quarter there. The Falcons had a wide open look to Julio Jones early in the third quarter, and then again at the end of the third quarter, Matt Ryan finds another wide open pass for a touchdown. It almost looked like it was the same play, to be honest. And if you're listening to the commentators during the game, something they said a couple of times is there's no one within 15 feet of the receiver. So that's kind of on the Hawks, fill those holes in the defense. But at the end of the day, what's most important is they were able to get the job done when it counted. The defense doesn't quit. Interception by Earl Thomas late in the fourth was the turning point for the Hawks. And to answer your question, yes, they are legit.
Kellen, what do you think?
Lacey, great work there. You said everything basically I was kind of going to say, but I think you got to focus on one player in particular in this ball game. They didn't have Cam Chancellor. Sherman was kind of in and out of the game mentally. Julio Jones was a big reason why. Earl Thomas, like you mentioned, big-time interception at the end of the game. If you look at his eyes are unbelievable. It's the definition, in my opinion, of having the eye of the tiger. He's so intense. He's a guy that you want in your foxhole. He's a guy you want at the end of the game shooting free throws. What a competitor. And he really, really stuck out to me, especially at the end of the game. And again, we'll kind of get to it a little bit in the show about kind of how the game ended there. But I think the Seahawks defense, kind of like the Loot defense has been over the years, it's a bend but don't break defense. So they only give up 3 points in the first half. Unreal. Yes, they give up 24 for the game, so they gave up a few more points after that. But again, they won the football game. And talk about the Falcons. You can kind of almost compare, again, Division III, NFL, totally different. But Whitworth is an amazing defense, and the PLU defense struggled. But they also rose up and made some plays. Again, the Falcons are an amazing offense, and obviously the Seahawks ended up winning that ball game because of their defense. So it's one of those things when you play a great team like the Falcons, you're going to give up big plays, but it's how you respond, it's how you are in crisis, how you are in adversity. And Earl Thomas, without Cam Chancellor, was unbelievable.
That there were plenty of controversial plays throughout the game, and we're going to talk a little bit about each of them. Lacey, you mentioned, we saw Richard Sherman himself blow a couple coverages. There was a time where the entire defense was playing, I think it was deep thirds or whatever, and Richard Sherman was man-to-man locked in on someone. It stems from a communication problem. We've seen the Seahawks struggle at times with communication. You think about last year against the Panthers, it was the same guy, Richard Sherman, blowing a coverage. Greg Olsen is wide open in the end zone and catches the game-winning touchdown. Okay, so Drew, I'll ask you, how tough is it for teams to communicate, and is this something Seahawk fans should be worried about moving forward?
Well, team unity is something the Seahawks had never had to worry about, I think, until this year. I think we've started to see fractures. I think the big egos are starting to fracture locker rooms a little bit. I think as the collective bargaining agreement comes closer and closer to being renegotiated, people are going to look for more money. I think more money causes more problems. And it's so tough to see. But at the end of the day, we saw the most special thing in sports happen. We saw the entire Seahawks team pick up Richard Sherman after that. Mm-hmm. I think that is one of the coolest things I have ever seen in sports, ever in my entire lifetime, the way they rallied around him after the couple mistakes he made. And so I think that part of the communication is good, but I think the on-field communication is it's wavering a little bit.
And to your point there, Drew, especially in the NFL, I mean, you don't really see that. You don't see, because what happened was Sherman and Chancellor were kind of going at it, and you saw the team rally around both those guys. Sherman was struggling. He was frustrated. Even after the game, they still won. He's not the happiest guy after the game. So like you said, Drew, for that to happen in the NFL, these guys are professional athletes, but yet they still get what it means to be a team. And that's why the Jacksonville Jaguars are who they are. That's why the Jets are who they are. They don't have team unity like the Seahawks do.
That's fair. Let's hit another controversial topic. In the second half, we saw Michael Bennett get cut blocked by Jake Matthews of the Atlanta Falcons. You know, a cut block is a move where the offensive lineman or whoever is making the block kind of dives at the waist, more so the knees. The hit was legal, but it was certainly, not fun to watch. Bennett was shaken up on the play. He returned to the sideline, but he didn't come back in the game. So, Lacey, I'll ask you, in your opinion, was the cut block needed? Was it a dirty play, and how do you feel about it?
Well, just to start off, I don't know if you guys were able to hear kind of Michael Bennett's responses to the play. He was heated about it, and there were some nasty words thrown around. For lack of a better word, he said the block was a pansy move. Which
wow.
I couldn't agree more. I think, yes, it was legal, but it's just kind of disrespectful to the player. I mean, in my opinion, the game wasn't on the line, and I don't know if I'm seeing things differently, but I didn't think Bennett was even that close to Matt Ryan for Matthews to be taking a hit like that on him. So, yeah, I think it kind of goes back to that respect thing where we talked about in our tough deals. It's like, have respect for the player you're playing against. You guys are both out there trying to win a football game, and you're going to do what you have to do to get it done. But going after a player to, I don't know if it was intentional to try and hurt him or what, that's just not okay. But to look at the other side of that, we're not on the field with these guys. We don't know what they're saying between plays. They could have been chirping at each other all game, and this was just kind of the tipping point for them. So, but in my opinion, don't think the block was very classy or respectful. Bennett's lucky to be okay. If he wasn't, I'd be scared. I'd be scared if I was Matthews.
It was not fun to watch. So lastly, there was controversy at the very end of the game. Kellen, you're a wide receiver, and on the final play of the game, it was noted that Richard Sherman pretty much got away with pass interference when Matt Ryan tried to connect with Julio Jones. Sherman pinned one of Julio Jones' arms to his own side, which is pass interference, but where the referee who would have made the call was behind the play, didn't necessarily see it, and if you can't see something, you can't call something. So what are your takeaways, Kellen, from that final play?
The fact that play was not pass interference is inconceivable. I cannot believe they allowed that to happen. Granted, Christian, from your point of view, from the perspective of the ref, if he couldn't see, if Julio Jones jumps up with two hands, but one arm is the one that only is up, something had to have happened to the other arm. And what happened to the other arm was Richard Sherman did a veteran move, and he hooked it. He hooked it, and Julio Jones could only go up with one hand, almost catches the football if you watch the play closely. It's frustrating because as a receiver, if that was me going against, some Lewis and Clark DB, whoever it may be, that would be the most frustrating thing, especially knowing that in the NFL, if they call that play, they get the football right where they call it. And so the Falcons have the ball there with, I'm not sure how much time would be on the clock, but they kick a field goal. If he makes it, again, that's not a gimme shot, especially at CenturyLink, but they possibly win that football game. And so I just can't imagine how frustrating it would be for Julio and as well as Matt Ryan because they dialed up a great play call. And the Seahawks did a great job. They put their two best players on Julio. They had Sherman jamming him, and then they had Earl Thomas over the top. Again, you could also look at the play before that possible PI. Julio does hit Sherman in the face, so that could have been hands to the face call. But again, they're probably not going to call that on the last play of the game. But that PI call, I just think it was so blatant that his body contorts that way. And it was so frustrating because a guy, and I did pick the Falcons to win, so it's not like I'm bitter, but as a receiver, knowing what Julio went through and he doesn't get any calls, that's a tough deal.
I was the only one who picked the Hawks to win last week, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.